I will start with the standard blurb. Oops. Share. See. Okay. Too many windows open. This is too small. Okay, good. Welcome. Let's see. I do want to give my web show a quick plug. We record this web show in Australia and New Zealand. And if we don't get enough registrations and enough people watching it, then they don't give us money to do it in Australia anymore. And we have to do it in well, and we don't do it at all, and then we just get corp content from America. So I would very much encourage you all to register for my shows on there. The one that we have coming up this week is going to be Martin from RAC. Martin is talking about how he redid the website for RACWA and how he used GitHub Actions for it and stuff like that. So it is super cool. And what else? Oh, and next month we have Patient Notes, which is a startup that have built a health app on Azure, and they're talking about that. They're talking about that app and how they built it and how they built their company, and that is a really good session to end this financial year on. There are a bunch of other episodes on there that you can also register for and download on demand. Definitely recommend all the GitHub ones. So I have at least two GitHub ones. So April and Mish Mannering were on there. And so those are really fun topics. Cool. So yes, please register for that. You can also find them on our Australia YouTube channel after the fact, but it would help my numbers more if you registered for it on this website. Cool. So Microsoft Student Accelerator is a program where we want to help you learn together. We want to help you be part of a community. We want to help you build. And we want to help you connect. Last year, we were all about doing the certifications, and I was always encouraging you to do the AI 900 and the AI 100, which are my favorite ones. I think AI is the career path that's really going to set you up, even if you decide not to work in tech after university or after whatever you're doing now. Having AI to augment your existing skill set is definitely going to help you. What we have this year, though, that is even cooler, or potentially even cooler, I think they're both really good, but we have these things called applied skills. The applied skills are they are practical things, practical qualifications. So you follow the learning path, and it has some labs within the learning path in sandboxes that you can do, which will help you learn how to use the tools themselves. And then there is an assessment at the end of the learning path that is an online lab. That online lab means that if you pass that, you get a certificate which shows you can actually use the tools. So there is one there on developing generative AI solutions with Azure OpenAI Service. Initially, there was a problem with that in that you weren't able to do the exam, the assessment, unless you had access to Azure OpenAI, which you might not necessarily have because it's kind of limited access right now. But they have changed the assessment for that. So now you can do it. They give you a dummy ID to use in the exam. So absolutely recommend you trying that. If you pass that, please do post the certificate on your LinkedIn and tag me in the post to say that you have passed it. The reason I say that is because I tried it yesterday and failed dismally. um, it, there's a lot of code in that assessment, and I had not read the learning path very recently. So I do recommend that you read the learning path and then do the assessment. It's all free. Learning path and the assessment is all free, and then you can get a certificate. And it would be very impressive if you got that certificate before I have. So do try that and beat me to the jump. There are plenty of other applied skills on there. And there is a variety of difficulty to it. So the one that I have passed, I think, I don't remember whether it was the natural language one or the AI vision one. I passed one of them, and I did that without reading the learning path at all. It was super easy to me. But the other one, I tried it 3 times over Christmas and I didn't pass it because the lab kept freezing. This is because those are new qualifications, and the kind of like the scaling up of the demand and also everything else around it is still very new. So don't lose patience. If you fail it, like I did, 72 hours later, you can try that again. So, no risk, no reward. And in fact, there's not really any risk apart from, your feelings. So, yeah, those are all of them. In fact, there might be more of them now. You can do these assessments, they are open book. There is no, like with the exam, you have like a monitor watching you through your laptop, but with these applied skills, no one's watching you. You can do it open book. You can, have a separate code window up. You can have your Microsoft Learn up, whatever else, and refer to stuff while you're doing it. It has a 2-hour limit, but what I noticed yesterday was it will keep allowing you to extend that. It will ask you, do you want another 20 minutes or another 20 minutes or another 20 minutes? So perhaps you could just go on forever if you need to. But by that point, I was really confused because I was just like, what have I done with my code? So, oh yeah, that's the one I did pass without studying. But the other one, yeah, I think I need to study. I have done, so in that generative AI skills path, it has sandboxes. And where I say you don't need Azure subscription with OpenAI access to do the exam, you don't, but to do the sandbox labs, you do. And because you might not have that, I have actually done all of those labs and recorded them so you can see them in that playlist on my YouTube channel. So there you go. You can watch it and it goes through pretty slow. And I put like the links in there so that you can follow the instructions for the lab at the same time as I'm doing it and see what I'm doing on the screen. I've done them pretty slowly. I haven't cut out any time in there. So therefore you should be able to follow along pretty easy without even having to pause it. Cool. Oh, and indeed, there is a AI course taught by a Microsoft certified trainer for that generative AI one. So that generative AI one is AI 050, and you can watch all of those for free by following that link as well. Just a reminder that if you go to the Microsoft Learn Student Hub, they always have good up-to-date information on there and offers. You have your discounted exam vouchers through that website. You also will see things like this where, like, if you had registered for that one, like right away on April 9th, they were offering 50 exam vouchers for free to the first 50 people. So, watch out for that kind of thing. Right now, I think it has a link for you to register for Microsoft Build. And if you register for that, there is a Cloud Skills Challenge. Once you're registered, you can do that. And there are prizes attached, maybe exam vouchers, I'm not sure. But my tip is always sign up for stuff, and then you can definitely get extra stuff for free. Oh, also, on the Student Hub, you can get thousands and thousands of dollars worth of free software. If you scroll down the page, you will get to the GitHub Student Developer Pack, and that has a lot of free software in there, including the GitHub Copilot, which is worth $20 a month. Just a reminder as well that we do run meetings. If you are in Canberra, that one is coming up. And we try to run in-person meetings once a quarter in each of the locations. I do have a meetup group that you can find as well to sign up for those. We have the technical workshop playlist where we put all of the workshops. So do subscribe to my YouTube channel, because then you will be made aware of any updates. Would also recommend that you apply for the Student Ambassadors scheme. This is a global program, and it used to be that if you applied for that scheme, only 30% of the people were selected. That's not the case anymore. They will let you in if you apply. And then it's up to you how far you progress. So you can go through the levels. They will offer you training. They will offer you opportunities to do exams. And as you certify and as you take that training, you get promoted through the levels. If you become a gold ambassador, that is the maximum level. You get all sorts of swag. You get all sorts of recognition for it. And to be a student ambassador means that when you start work, you are already equipped to become an MVP. And an MVP is a Microsoft Most Valued Professional. Those are very rare positions and awards, and only the best of the best get those. If you have those, you can get paid more at work, and you get more prestigious work, and you get invited to a lot of Microsoft events to speak and to hang out. And there's just so many other benefits, but it requires you to be a leader and a teacher to your community around you. So becoming a student ambassador will help put you on that pathway and fast track you for MVP status. More stuff on the Student Hub that's free. There we go. You get your discounted certifications, your Azure for Students, your GitHub Student Developer Pack. Those are all free code, free code, free code, and free cloud. There's the playlist. Join the Facebook and LinkedIn groups if you're not already a member. Okay, cool. Now, I do not think that Deepthi is here. Ava, Katrina, do you know anything about this month, or shall I just talk about something else?
We do have something planned.
Do
So
you?
no
Awesome.
worries, you don't need a ramble on. Yes. So this is a special edition. I think Deepthi usually runs these sessions, but she's currently preoccupied. So unfortunately, we have Katrina and I here today. We will be taking you through effective networking. And just to introduce ourselves in case you are unaware of what we do, I am a modern work specialist. I sit in the FSI sector, surface specialist, and I sell like hardware to our financial services industry folk. Katrina is a modern work specialist. I'll let her introduce herself.
Sure thing. Hi guys, I'm a modern work specialist. So I sit in our STU, which is our specialist team unit, and I look after public sector. So some of my accounts are public utilities, as well as some of New South Wales government. And basically, I look at how can we make employees more productive, improve employee well-being, and basically equip them with the tools that they need to be successful at work. So that looks like the whole kind of M365 environment. So some really cool things that I'm working on, or the products that I'm working on at the moment, are Copilot, which you may or may not be aware of, but it's one of our generative AI tools. And it's, if you think about ChatGPT, kind of like that, but better and more enterprise grade as well. So happy to share any of those experiences later if you need. But we can dive straight into it.
All right, sounds good. So I'm aware some of you may be students, some of you may be working, and I think networking is an extremely important part of starting your career and your personal growth, and something that you take through with you through your entire career trajectory, from start to finish. So it's really important that we kind of nail how to effectively make connections professionally, in the corporate space, whether that might be in tech or a different area, like healthcare, law, banking. It's all the same, but it's still about making those connections and finding commonalities with people around you to help, whether that serves you or someone else. Um, so I might start with, the why you might be doing this in the first place. And maybe you might rethink why you're doing it. And I think having that lens of what you're going into it, what your priorities really informs what you do next. So most popular would be job searching. I think that's what a lot of people network for, is to find new opportunities in an area of your interest, whether that might be within an organization, if it's a different role, or that might be different companies that you really want to work for. For example, in tech, maybe it's Salesforce, maybe it's Apple or Microsoft. That might be your goal. The other one is, meeting other people within the company. So that's something that Katrina and I do a lot of. Microsoft is very huge. There's a lot of different roles, or in ANZ, let alone in globally. So I think that's something that we have to keep on top of mind always, because something that's promoted at Microsoft is excelling your career, not only within your role, but how do you learn about different solutions, because that just makes you a more dangerous weapon. Being able to say that, I've worked in Surface, I've worked in modern work, I've worked as an architect and all these type of things, and I've worked across all these different responsibilities and workloads. That just makes you a more capable person in the end. And I think something that's maybe overlooked in networking is just simply creating connections. And I think a very important aspect of networking is to start networking before you need to do it. And so what that means is, whether you're conscious or not, when you're in university, when you're at events like this, for either virtual or physical, when you're at a career fair, you're just building connections. Maybe you don't really know what you're looking for, but just having their name in your pocket or having them on LinkedIn, you're simply building a connection there. Um, and lastly is, exchanging an exchange of knowledge at the end of the day. When you're talking to someone else, you're providing value, but they're also providing value to you. And it's even, more worthwhile than simply Googling something than it is to, ask someone to their face. Let's say, can you tell me about the cloud, or can you tell me about how the financial services industry is moving? Because they have that hands-on experience and they work with it every day. So instead of Googling, literally, you can just ask someone, on LinkedIn or a career fair what their perspective is, or get a coffee chat, and you'll probably get a more accurate answer. Um, is there anything you'd like to add, Katrina, to the kind of introductory why or platforms for networking?
Yeah, sure thing. So I think one thing I wanted to touch on as well is, I guess, what is networking and what can it mean, right? Because there's a few different things networking can mean. I think, Ava, you touched on a few different things already. But there's networking within kind of your job or your society or university, and that's kind of how can I build effective relationships with people around me to kind of advance where I want to be in the future. So that could be career, that could be, within your society position or something. So that's one aspect of networking. The other aspect of networking is probably like the more events focused part, which I think is kind of more of our focus today, but I guess we still touch on the other part of networking. But the events, so there's a few different events that networking can be, right? So there's the classic, you go to a networking event and there's representatives from, one company or a few different companies there. There's also things such as mentoring programs. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this, but something I found really useful when I was in university was attending those mentoring programs and signing up to those mentoring programs. It's not necessarily networking, but it kind of is. And I think those are really good in the sense that they really put you with a structured kind of mentor relationship. And maybe we can touch on this bit later because I realize this isn't exactly the why. But I think those are kind of the networking types. Just to start off with. The why as well, I think I can share maybe a personal example of why I think networking was really valuable for me. So I remember I was applying for this role at Bloomberg, and it was a sales and analytics role. And I think I was pretty like, oh, I really want to do this. So I attended a networking event that was hosted by my society, that had Bloomberg in it. Went up to them, had this really good conversation with this girl, and she was basically in the exact role I wanted to apply for. And I was like, oh, okay, amazing. Like, I'm going to ask so many questions. So we had a really good chat, formed a connection, and then afterwards what I did was added her on LinkedIn and also messaged her afterwards for a coffee chat to extend that relationship. So I think we'll touch on this in the tips later, but I think in terms of that, it really gave me a good perspective on, what the role was about rather than just the role description on a website. It really allowed me to ask her, what she does day to day. And I think that's something that is just hard to get from a job description or hard to get from, a website or something. So I think having that kind of person-to-person connection, and she was also able to say, all the good things of the job, but also all the really bad things as well. So I think gave me that perspective and that nuanced look on what the job actually had in it. And another thing was also, I guess, just learning about the industries as well. So I guess for me, I hadn't really touched the finance industry before because I was mainly from a tech background. So for her to be able to kind of share, here are the trends in finance at the moment, and here are the things that we look at as a Bloomberg company, and here are the kind of the customers that we look at. For me, was really useful to actually just go direct to the source rather than having to research it all myself. I was able to kind of see from her perspective what was really top of mind. So when I did do my interview with Bloomberg, I think I was able to really kind of put all of that lived knowledge into my interview rather than kind of just the research on the paper. So, and I was also able to name drop as well, which I think is also very useful to say, hey, I know this person and she can kind of vouch for me as well. I think that's a really big plus. And it also shows that you've kind of done your due diligence in terms of, researching the role and being actively interested as well. So yeah, but I was also going to say, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to come off mute or put it in the chat. Otherwise, it'll just be Ava and I rambling on for too long.
All
I'll pass
right.
back to you.
So let's move on. I think what I split up this session into is both digital networking and face-to-face networking, and how you can do both effectively. Because we live in a digital age where, we have LinkedIn at our disposal, we have professional networking sites that allow us to reach people that we never perhaps would have. And that's the beauty of it, right? And we want to capitalize on these tools to make sure that we're giving our best the best opportunity we can in finding a job, or either finding or networking or exchanging information. And whether you like it or not, there is still a decorum or a way you should effectively network digitally. I'm going to be talking specifically about LinkedIn first, and I'm going to give a few tips on how to do it in a more organized manner than maybe you would have thought of. And you know, even if you still have a job like Katrina and I at Microsoft, I still network on LinkedIn. I still reach out to people at Microsoft through LinkedIn. You know, whether that might be in the same role or adjacent to me or maybe higher up, I still reach out to them and say, hi, can I have a chat? So, and I do that not because necessarily I want to be in a role that they are in, but just to get to know them and get some insights on maybe it's another solution. So there's that. So I think the first thing I would tell you to do would be to write things down. So start out by writing your target. So what are the jobs or the industries or companies you're vaguely interested in that you have a passion about? Note those down. You know, maybe you might have 50, maybe you might have 5. That's okay. But as long as you're identifying and you have a tangible goal that you want to work towards. And the next thing would be to create a networking tracker. That can either, you know, be on Notion, that could be on Excel, that can be on OneNote. It doesn't really matter. It can be on a notebook. What you want to do is when you're networking, track all this information and make sure you have that top of mind. Because the last thing you want to do is confuse someone for something else or ask something that's irrelevant to that person's background. So who do you want to track, what their job role is, maybe highlight something in their past career experience that you're interested in, what you want to talk about, who they are. And this is actually something that I did myself as an intern at Microsoft, because one of the things as an intern you want to do the most of is meet people. And there are just so many different people at Microsoft. So I kind of organized people into like what their team is, what their past experiences was, maybe a few notes of what I chatted to them about. So if I did have a second coffee chat with them, I could bring that up and they could be like, oh, you remember what we talked about and you don't look completely lost. Third, really, I would set a goal and assumptions, right? So let's say you're networking on LinkedIn with completely strangers and you want to, let's say, aim for one networking call per week. So if you want one networking call per week, you're probably going to have to send more than one message to a single person. So let's say you send 10 messages out to different people on LinkedIn, and hopefully you get at least one call back. So setting kind of smart goals and saying, you know, what's the probability I get a message back? Because the reality is you might not, people just might be too busy to respond to you. And so you're really interested in information gathering mode. So cast a wide net and then work backwards to the results you want. Um, and so the another thing I would do is really look at that person's profile. A tip for LinkedIn is maybe you could set your profile to private if you don't want someone with maybe LinkedIn Premium to see if you've viewed their profile. So that's just a little hack. So you might not look a bit creepy when you're looking at someone's LinkedIn profile. So it's to just review their profile and make sure to determine a way whether whether there's a real connection there. So something I always look at is, maybe what university they went to. If they went to UNSW, that's great. I can, find a similarity there, or maybe they possess society or some common interest, or maybe we worked in the same industries once upon a time, whether that be, retail. Maybe you both worked at McDonald's or in tech or in banking, and say I've worked in retail and I want to have a chat to you about how you transitioned from retail to banking, for example. How did you use that experience there? So creating that connection is really important. Next is writing your pitch. So create a template introducing and pitching yourself. It should be pretty short. So detail who you are, why their background is interesting, what you want to learn from them, and what 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 your plans are for the future. And in this way, you want to do all the work, create the scheduling options. You want to write the email, you want to set the calendar invite. So you should make it extremely easy for them to hop on that call and have that conversation. And again, whether that's LinkedIn or email, Some have varying degrees of success. I think some people might get too many messages on LinkedIn, considering it's the easiest way to reach them. So if you want to be sneaky, you can kind of scrape people's email addresses through third-party apps, and there's ways to do that. I think there's like Rocket Reach, Hunter.io. There's different third-party apps to get to people's emails. Don't abuse it. I mean, like, be respectful, but that might be a more efficient way of getting coffee chats with people. Another one is just, prepare questions beforehand, make sure you're asking relevant questions. And another one is the last one I'd say is provide mutual value. So when you're jumping on that call, you might not have much to offer. You might be asking for information. You might be asking for insights, but it's always a good look when you try at least to attempt to provide something back. So, maybe if you're asking for a coffee, buy that person a coffee, or maybe they're, very active on LinkedIn and you see they're reading a lot of articles, maybe share an article that they're really interested in that might pique their interest and say, I thought this might provide some value to you. I've read this article on AI. Or, if you really want to go to extra mile, this is, absolutely a person that you want to work for, is offer to do even some work. So maybe if you're there in marketing, or, they're in, writing, asked to write like something for them, like a thought piece, or whatever they might be, or like do a bit of research or give them some insights. I think they will be extremely grateful for that. They'll, be very appreciative and say, wow, I never expected this. Thank you. And really asked for this either, but still you're providing some value in some sort of way. And this will pique their interest. And, if they don't care, that kind of says something about them as well. And maybe they're not a really nice person, and maybe you don't want to work with them if they're nasty. So take it for what you will. So that's a few tips for digital networking. I might pass that on to Katrina for more of the face-to-face, or if you have anything to add for this.
Yeah, no, I think you covered it all, Ava. So I'll continue on. So with face-to-face networking, I think there's a few different tips, and it kind of overlaps with a bit of the digital networking as well. But I think there's a few different tips on here, but I'll kind of walk you through, I guess, how I like to approach the face-to-face networking. So I think the first thing is really important is being strategic, right? So I think what that means is have a goal in mind before you come to the face-to-face networking event, and have a goal in mind that could be like, I want to establish one new connection, or I want to really find out more about this person's role, or I want to get a job out of this. And so break it down and how you want to actually do it. So make sure you do your research as well. I think that's a really important thing. People really appreciate when you come to them with questions. So I think when you go to a networking event, say it's for example, for Bloomberg, right? You want to do research on the company. You want to say, what's Bloomberg really investing in at the moment? What are kind of the key trends that they're looking at? What's the product about? What does the product look like? What are some of the roles that you're interested in? So that when you go to the networking event, you actually have some collateral behind you, and you can actually ask some questions before, rather than just kind of making it up on the spot. Because I think people can really tell when you're prepared versus when you're unprepared. So when you're actually in the networking event, I think focus on definitely the quality over the quantity of your connections there. So I think, you can put a lot of pressure on yourself to kind of approach everyone at the moment. But I think what's really important is that, if you have two really good conversations, or even one really good conversation with someone, that's going to mean a lot more than kind of talking to everyone. So firstly, don't put that pressure on yourself. The next thing is, I think small talk is, as much as some people might hate it, and I kind of hate it as well, it's pretty important, because you want to be able to firstly connect with the person just on like a casual basis. Like, obviously you want to get your questions in there and you want to ask them, but don't forget to wrap around, small talk, learning about their life outside of work, just a kind of human to human connection. I think that's definitely always underrated and sometimes forgotten. And I think that will make you stand out as well, and make the person more likely to say, hey, this person's actually really cool, and I actually want to keep in touch with them and keep talking to them. So I think that's an important kind of tip as well. Small talk, ask them about, what what are their hobbies, something simple like that. And I think that will be at least interesting to go beyond just that mentoring and networking connection. I think the second point is around the actively engage, right? And I think that can come down to a few different things. So actively engaging looks like, you're in terms of body language, you're looking at the person, you're making hand gestures, your body's faced towards them. That's one part of it. Another part of it is also just when they're responding to your question and things like that, make sure you're interacting and saying, okay, yes, okay, cool, good. And then when they actually respond, try to respond with a question that's directed to their response. So, for example, if they're saying, some of the key trends that we're seeing is that generative AI is becoming really big. You can add, your next follow-up question can be, okay, so how does that look like in terms of products within Bloomberg? Or can you tell me more about that? I'm really interested in generative AI. So try to make it really personalized and try to actually engage with their responses rather than just, going through a list of questions and just go bam, bam, bam with all your questions. So I think that kind of shows them that you're actively interested and actively listening as well. Also, just treat it like a normal conversation. I think some people often think networking, oh my God, it's such a big deal. But I think with networking, it's really just a conversation with someone, and if you're interested enough, it comes off very naturally. So just come off natural and don't think too much about it, I would say. In terms of the follow-up, I think that's also really important as well. I think I already touched on it before, but you can have a really good conversation with someone and then just lose that connection instantly. So I think always add them on LinkedIn after, take all of Ava's tips and kind of just send them a request and say, hey, really interested for a coffee chat after, like, love the chat we had, and make sure it's personalized, right? So love the chat we had at the Bloomberg networking event. I think, it was really interesting to hear you talk about the financial trends, XYZ. So try to make it personalized so they remember who you are rather than just kind of doing a generalized message. And then set a follow-up and say, hey, can we grab coffee? Would love to, connect more and ask you more about your role because I'm really interested and I've got an interview coming up. So try to put some context around it as well. And I think when you get that context, people are more likely to respond and say, yes, we've already met in person, so of course, and we had a good vibe, so of course we're going to catch up for a coffee. So it makes it a lot easier to do that follow-up rather than just cold messaging someone on LinkedIn. Another thing I was talking about was the mentorship program. So happy to share any mentorship programs I'm aware of. So happy to for you guys to reach out to me in LinkedIn. But there's a few different mentorship events. I think even if you just Google it or Facebook events or something, societies always have them, and they're really good because what they do is they actually set you up with a mentor one-to-one, or it's usually one-to-one or one-to-many. But they're really good because they actually you don't have to cold message anyone on LinkedIn and form that connection. You'll get paired with someone usually on what your interests are. So I remember when I did one of my mentoring programs, I got paired with someone from Salesforce because I was interested in tech. And that was really easy because they just set you up with someone who was, similar to you, who's in a kind of role that you want to go into, and you have that connection with them. And the mentor, more importantly, is briefed and is said, taught to kind of how they can nurture the relationship with the mentee, and they're taught to kind of maintain that active communication. So, it's a really good relationship and would really recommend that as well, just beyond, networking events and things like that. I'm just conscious we have 5 minutes left, and we've rambled for quite a while. So wanted to open up to any questions from anyone. Feel free to come off mute if you're brave, or put it in the chat as well if you'd like. Anything at all. Does anyone have any networking events coming up maybe that they wanted support for?
I thought I saw Tracy in here. Tracy, are you here?
I am here. I'm lurking, but I'm here.
Well, tell them about the Canberra event.
I will indeed. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. I've got a cold. So yes, we do. We have an event on Tuesday afternoon at 5:30. We've got our lovely Microsoft Student Accelerator event, which we would love you to come to. Here we go. I'm just going to cough. Stand by. No one needed to hear that. So 5:30 till about 7:30 in the Microsoft offices in Barton. I will grab you a link. Actually, I can't do two things at once. I'm not even
I'll
going to
grab the
try.
link. You tell them
Thanks,
what's going to
Michelle.
be going on.
So we'll start with a little bit of a discussion about what the Microsoft Student Accelerator program is. We've got one of our Microsoft Learn Gold ambassadors coming to talk to everybody, which will be fabulous. He's going to be great. We have one of our specialists giving a bit of a talk about Microsoft Fabric, which is all anybody in Canberra can talk about at the moment. And it's not something that most people actually have access to. So it's sort of we thought it was going to be a great thing to talk to people about so that you get a bit of an edge on everybody else. Because as Katrina and Ava said, it's all about getting an edge and being able to talk about things that nobody else can talk about. And then we have a careers panel, and our careers panels at our Canberra MSA events are fabulous because they're always very diverse. We've got a hiring manager on the panel, one of our data and AI specialists. Thanks, Michelle. Who else we've got? Look, it's four people on the panel. I'm hosting it. They're always fun and funny. And then we've got networking with a whole bunch of our Microsoft Canberra folk. So pizza, t-shirts, it'll be great. So yeah, please come along. Just register on the link there. We'd love to see you. That's my little sales pitch. How was that?
Good.
So please come along. I'll be there. I'm very friendly, you can tell.
Perfect. I think, yeah, just attend as many networking events as you can, to be honest. Like, I think networking is sometimes a numbers game. The more people you talk to, the more results you're going to get, the more likely you're going to find a connection with someone that you actually, vibe with. So attend as many as you can and definitely go to the Canberra event because I think that's a great way to kind of start your networking journey if you haven't started. But yeah, Ava, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Maybe we might see you at one of those, because Katrina and I usually, I go to networking events outside of Microsoft as well, just to meet people, other people in tech. So, maybe we might see you there. So who knows? Good luck. And, maybe reach out on LinkedIn. And if you want to have a further chat with us, we'd be very keen to.
We have one question from Winnieata. So we've got an industry connect with computing and security alumni at ECU with the networking portion. Any tips for encouraging potentially shy students to not leave after the panel? Good question. With the potentially shy students, I think maybe just even let me think. Ava, do you have anything off the top of your mind? In terms of, I assume that you're organising the event. So as event organisers, how do we keep shy students from not leaving after the panel?
I think if it's is it like a face-to-face networking thing, or is it a more of a digital networking event? Because usually with digital networking events, you can kind of get participation from students through polls, either through Teams or Zoom. They can submit their questions through there, or have a form beforehand where they can submit their questions. Or if they might be too shy, encouraging them, after the fact to reach out on their own accord when they're more comfortable, like one-on-one. That might be a solution there. But yeah, it really depends if it's face-to-face or digital.
I just say in person with food after, which I think the food after is a really good point, which I forgot about. If there's food after, people more than likely to kind of stick around. But the other thing I was thinking about was maybe changing your structure. You could start off with more kind of like maybe like 20 minutes of networking at the beginning where, you know, those shy students can kind of just form a connection with some of the presenters and they can kind of feel more inclined to stick around after seeing and talking to them and, you know, they're actually nice people. But yeah, I think the food after is a good idea. And yes, as Ava said, you can kind of say, yeah, if you're not comfortable, maybe you can, you know, connect with them on LinkedIn, or here's a form where you can kind of submit some of your question and we'll get back to you as well.
We
Yeah.
had to jump because the other technical session is starting now. So that was marvelous. Thank you so much, Katrina and Ava. And we will see you all next month. And hopefully I'll see you all in the technical workshop in the next call. Thanks,
All right.
everyone.
Thanks
Michelle.
everyone.
Thanks, Tracy. See ya.
See you later. Bye.